I'll turn red on top. Ready to go.
Huh?
Oh, my bad.
To order. Our invocation tonight will be led by Councilman Hammond, and our Pledge of Allegiance will be led by one of our summer interns, Logan Crumpley, who's a 2025 Anderson County High School graduate. So if everyone please stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Heads bowed. Oh Lord, our Lord, how excellent is thy name in all of the earth. We come for you thanking for the opportunity to gather as representatives and citizens to conduct the work and the business of this city. Please bless and breathe upon our gathering, that it may be fruitful, productive, and serve the purpose for which we have gathered. We thank you in advance for what you've already done. It is in your precious and holy name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Let's see. First order of business, Madam Clerk.
We'll do the roll call. So Mayor Pro Tem Dotson,
Here.
Councilmember Gleason, Mayor Gooch,
Here.
Councilmember Hammond, here. Councilmember Hensley,
Here.
Councilmember Hope,
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
Here.
So 6 present. First item of business, Madam Clerk.
Under public hearings and first reading of ordinances, we have an ordinance to provide revenue for municipal purposes for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2025 by imposing a tax on all property within the city, fixing the rate of the tax, adopting a budget, and adopting appropriations.
Move for approval. Moved and seconded. Mr. Heeman.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate all of the input that's gone into what we're going to present tonight, and just a little bit about that. And this is going to be a relatively brief presentation. For those in the audience, City Council has heard this in a work session. They've also heard it in another meeting, so they've heard it several times. We've gone through quite a bit so far, so this is going to be abbreviated, but still about 30 slides tonight. Just a little bit about the process. It starts for us with the strategic plan and actually trying to align the budget with the goals of City Council. We have some staffing and reclassifications that we discussed. That comes forth from staff, and we review all those. We have revenue projections. There's quite a bit of time that goes into what is the revenue going to be, and that's one of the things that changed this year. Our revenue projections are up, but there was a lot of discussion about those at the staff level. And then we had departmental meetings on their budget goals, things that the departments wanted in the budget. And then we produced our draft budget, had some internal meetings where there were a few final changes on that, and then received some more city council review, staff review. On the 29th of May, we were in front of the Budget and Finance Committee. We didn't have a long discussion on the budget, but we're there to ask questions, and of course, that brings us to today, to the June 2nd presentation. Overall, we are proposing to maintain an equalized tax rate, and we'll tell you what that is in just a second. We're working on building some staff capacity, strategic general fund capital investments in some of the projects that you have prioritized. And obviously, we've talked about these recently, but continued investments in our waterworks and our electric departments, upgrades there. And also, you know, we're focused on downtown industrial and residential continued focus and quality of life. So you'll see some things in here. For instance, we heard several months ago from a group of folks that came forth and talked about pickleball. There's money for pickleball in this budget. So those kind of quality of life projects. So compensation in our workforce is the most important thing we do every year. So we're proposing a 2% step increase and a 3% cost of living increase for staff. That was approved by the Compensation Committee on May 19th. And I will say police and fire vary a little bit because we have their professional development plans in here that we have discussed with you. As I mentioned, we'll have those professional development plans in this year. That's about 127 employees that affects. And then over the next 2 years, the rest of the departments will get a deep dive into look at what are comparable positions paid in the area, and we'll make adjustments. And this will get us on a 3-year cycle. Where hopefully we can afford to keep up with the market and be very competitive with our neighbors. I'd be happy to take any questions that you've got at this point before we move on.
Questions? All right.
Okay.
Let's keep moving.
We're also working to meet demand and create some organizational efficiencies. I mentioned that we had a number of position requests. We had a total of 16. We had a total of 21 reclassifications proposed. We are proposing to add 9 general fund, regular full-time positions, a seasonal position, and you can see some changes in temporary part-time positions. We've got 4 general fund reclassifications, 1 electric fund reclassification, and 2 additional positions in the electric fund that are proposed, and I'll go through that in a little more detail. One of the big focuses for us as we face a number of capital projects in the future is to create some management capability for those projects. As we've applied for NRDA, we talk about the pool, we talk about building an animal shelter. All of these projects are going to require a fair amount of leadership from staff. So we don't want our staff that's Captain Tedford, for instance, has other things to do. He'll be involved in the animal shelter, but we don't want them to spend half their job trying to build something. So hiring a senior capital project manager and 6 months in, hiring a technician to work with that person is part of this year's budget proposal.
Now, back to the previous slide, when you talked about
I'm sorry.
converting some 3 temporary part-time to regular part-time. I think that was in the library.
Yes.
And I'm just curious to know the philosophy for that. I've heard somebody today saying they wish they could get a nice part-time job, but,
It really was a necessary, Eric, do you want to answer that question? You can do it better than me. It was a necessary move, quite frankly.
Yeah, so one of the main reasons we did it is that we actually have in our city ordinance, it says that if you were in a temporary position for 3 years, you become regular part-time. So we actually have 2 library positions that are already in that status. They have been temporary part-time. They've been here 3 years. They became regular. We wanted to go ahead and, because we like keeping these people around, making them regular part-time. The main change that does is it allows them to start to accrue a little bit of paid time off, as well as get paid if the city were to be closed on a holiday and they were scheduled to be normally on shift that day, they get paid for that as well.
okay,
So
thanks.
that's why.
Thank you.
So, those are those positions that you just mentioned. Those are the positions you just mentioned. There's also the seasonal full-time position, and you can see the reclassifications on the right and the additional full-time positions on the left. And be happy to talk about those in more detail, but those are all things that we feel like will help us with some improvements. One of the things that we focused on was how do we extend some hours at the senior center and the Scarborough Center. This budget and these changes allow us to do that, and we know that's important to you as council people, so I want to acknowledge that we did get that in this year's budget. In electric fund, we've proposed a new accounting manager and a electric engineer project manager, and this is kind of part of our overall theme of moving some people in higher positions there. We've got some really qualified people, and as we move them up and backfill, this will really help us kind of at the higher level there. And we've also got an administrative associate reclassification. From a capital standpoint, I mentioned these, but I'll say again, the animal shelter is in the budget. You'll see, if this is approved, you'll see a contract very shortly for the design of that will be forthcoming. Fire Station 2 design is in here. The CMAQ matching funds, looking at the design for the pool renovation. So this is the save the pool option to keep our existing pool as is. It'll take some design to get us there. Then we've got funds in for the NRDA projects that we know were moved to the next phase. Civic Center Plaza restoration, we've got to work, and this is, I will go ahead and tell you that whole plaza in that area will cost more than $500,000 at some point. So we'll look at what can we do to create that entryway. There'll be some additional work that needs to occur there that'll likely be a phased project, but we'll have some more information on that. I mentioned pickleball. This includes $195,000 to create some more pickleball options. The library's got a project in there for the book drop in the front gates, continued Kayenta implementation, and a transportation study. And I will tell you that we will see if we can get some additional support from other agencies for that transportation study. We have got, as we look at the number of jobs that are coming into town, we've got to address those transportation issues. We've already got the Edgemore Road issue, but we're going to have those issues in the west end of town, even more so as well as we continue to grow. Other projects, we've continued to put school maintenance in at $300,000. Blankenship Field, just not that this is a sexy thing, but we put aside this amount every year so that when the field replacement comes, we'll be able to do it without increasing taxes. Just to let you know, that kind of thing is in here. We've got another $75,000 for final construction and furnishings in the courtroom budget. The airport grant is still in there. Library Cafe is the cafe we've discussed in the library. That will be supported by the Friends of the Library as well, so that's only partial funding for that. And then we've got our sidewalk, stormwater improvements. That's our Greenway Trail match that we're moving forward with that Rails to Trails program. And then we've got our park signage replacement. We've been chipping away at that. Yes, sir.
Just a real quick question. This is on the last page. I was trying to process it without kind of asking, but I figured it may have just been better to ask. With the transportation study, is that similar to like a traffic study? Is that one major study across the city, or is that one bucket of money where you may be looking to do several sort of transportation studies in different areas of town? What do you envision?
That's a great question. I'm going to try to answer that, and Tom may want to fill in some blanks. But where we really need to get with the transportation is where we've built the digital model for what we have right now. And then as changes occur, as we add, let's just say we add 600 jobs for Orano or 500 for BWXT, those get added into the model so that you can model, what it's going to look like with those. And this is something that will help us as we go for additional funding as well. So it would really look at build a model, what is the digital model now, and it's a model that we could actually tweak and maintain with changes. Tom, anything else you'd like to add about that?
And as he's coming up, I guess I'm thinking there's traffic study.
Yeah.
But then when I think transportation, maybe public transportation. We just had the
Yeah,
We're just having this Uber factor into that. So I'm trying to grasp the scope of transportation versus traffic and how that might play itself out in the study.
Yeah, so I think, what Randy mentioned that, we're going to be talking to other people to help potentially fund that, and I think that would change the timing. Really, the transportation study we've kind of looked at is breaking it up into 2 years. So Randy's really talking about getting the modeling done this year, which is what you have to do to start with. And we'll be putting any and all the other components in there. But a full transportation study, we would probably have a similar amount next year unless we can get, some assistance from other agencies. But it would include bike ped connections. It would include
Gotcha.
transit. It would
That's
include
what I was wondering.
all the different modes of transportation, how those all tie together, including with the CMAQ projects and everything else. So we kind of didn't really feel like budgeting for the entire amount, and we'll get it started this year, get the data analysis, which is probably the biggest lift, and it'll take a lot of time, and then the model, and then we'll add on from there.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Tom. And then, as I mentioned, we're chipping away at the Parks and Rec signage replacement. Another question?
Yes. Have you already identified the software that you're going to use for modeling the city?
No, I don't think we have.
About 2 years ago, I suggested this to the planning office, and they did a little bit of research, and they actually found some companies that do that.
Yeah.
And the reason I've asked that is because there's a computer game I used to play called SimCity. I mean, it's a model of the thing. Wouldn't it be great if we had an industrial size version of that?
Well, from a transportation standpoint, you will. I've been in other places where we've had this, and what you'll do is you'll add in, for instance, those additional jobs that we talked about, and then you can go in and you can time it, okay, with these additional jobs, what's the change in how long it takes to get from point A to point B within your city based on that. So, I mean, it is pretty precise modeling. This is our revenue forecast, and you've seen this by now, but as I mentioned earlier, a lot of effort went into this, and it does show our total revenues up about 7.1%, up about 3.9 million for the year. We were asked a question at the last meeting about sports betting and how that is done, and this pretty much tells you it's a tax on the amount wagered, and 80% of it goes to education programs, about 15% is allocated to local governments, and 5% for mental health programs. So there's all kinds of moving pieces like this in the budget that were looked at by Greg Wright when he did the forecast. Our total expenditures are proposed at around 8% increase for this year, and you can see the budgets by department. We talked before about many of these. You see recreation is up, and we discussed the reasons for that, but for the most part, a lot of these are just up slightly. The PILT funding, you may recall last year we did not do any PILT transfers. We are proposing this year to do the electric fund transfer because we're now through with our TVA audit, and we know what our position is, and we feel like we can do that. We are not proposing a PILT transfer from the Waterworks Fund until we've done some more research on and modeled that based on our new rate study that we'll be doing and a deeper dive into the capital costs that include the water treatment plant. Okay. These are our transfers out. You can see they are pretty close with the exception of we dropped a little bit on capital projects fund. But I will tell you that everything that we proposed in here is in the capitals project fund, so it is covered, but there's about a $200,000 drop in that. So that's down about, transfers out are down close to 1%. And as it notes there, that does include the animal shelter construction, even though that debt issuance will not occur till 2027. So here's a little bit of a summary. You can see that transfers, we had this question at the last meeting. Transfers are spread throughout the budget where there's an accounting for, well, how much time do Tom and Randy or others spend on the electric department? So there's transfer between the general fund or the electric department or the waterworks based on time allocations. That's on, there's a summary of that on page 9 in the budget document. Those are based on historical estimates. We will look at those and have a third party take a deeper look at those in order to meet TVA requirements and assure that we're in compliance with best practices in electric and the waterworks fund. So our fund balance changes. What's really interesting here is if you look at the actual in 2024, what we budgeted was a drop in that, but if you look at what's projected, you'll see that we really didn't get that much of a drop. So we didn't use as much fund balance as was allocated in last year's budget. So, you know, we proposed that balance would come down to about 24 million this year. Hopefully it won't come down quite that far. This is a number that will not affect our bond rating. So we'll be in good shape with this number. So what is the proposed tax rate? You'll be able to say this the next time you run for office. I dropped the taxes from 2 point, I'm just kidding. The certified tax rate.
I'm going to cancel my meeting with the tax board. You might want to wait and hear this explanation before you cancel that meeting.
Because, you know, and I've got another slide in here that'll explain this, but so this certified tax rate, if you look at the bell curve of how property taxes went up, on average, they went up 68%. So this is what reflects that. So if you were to take a house that was previously, and I'll show you an example in a minute, that was at this level and then it went up to this level. This is the rate that keeps that actual tax payment equal. So it is, and the chances of it being the same in both counties are unbelievably, it's like winning the lottery.
Yeah, I've never seen that happen before.
I just don't understand how it could ever happen, but those are the numbers that we've got this year. So our proposal is not to modify that certified tax rate so that equal rate would carry through this budget. So it basically keeps it the same as it was in previous years. But I do want to point out, as I mentioned, that individual properties may vary. Don't look at the slide and say, well, they changed the tax rate, because depending upon where you are in the bell curve. So if the average property went up 68% and yours went up 70% or 75%, you're going to be paying more. If the average is 68 and yours only went up 55%, you're going to be paying less. So please understand that just because we set an equal tax rate, all properties will not receive the same rate that they receive. They will receive the same rate, but that number may vary based on the appraised value. Okay, and here's a really good example. So the median home sold value right now is about $325,000. That same home that's valued at that right now after the appraisal would have been about $193,000, according to if it's hit square in the bell curve at 68%. So you can see, your previous rate was 2.3136, and that would produce a tax bill on that house of $1,118. And you'll see if that goes up to 325 with your reevaluation, the tax rate drops. That'll produce that same amount of $1,118. So as I mentioned, that is the average, but that's what we're proposing this year. Any questions on that? Okay, regarding the schools, I mentioned the enrollment growth has been flat, which was unexpected. We'll continue to keep an eye on that. We do have to study those options for Linden Elementary or a West End site, and we will be working on that and looking at financial options for that. And I do want to say we continued with our annual investment of $300,000 for maintenance. You'll recall that that's what we put in for general maintenance. There are sometimes emergencies. Robertsville Middle School boiler last year. And I've told the schools that's when those emergencies occur, we understand that we'll have to take care of those emergencies. But for general maintenance, there's $300,000 in. They requested an additional $700,000 maintenance of effort. That is not recommended in this budget. And if you look at the slide that I'm going to show you in a second, the reason is we're going to have a huge expenditure at some point for either redoing Linden or building a new school. And a penny in our new rate's worth $220,000. So, as we start to look at those numbers and what it costs to amortize that, we really don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot with the maintenance of effort. We need to save our powder so that we can borrow the funds that we need to borrow, because we have a small reduction, around $1 million of our annual debt flows off in 2032. But the significant drop is not till 2036 when the high school comes off. We're still paying on the high school till 2036. And this debt profile shows that. Just keep in mind here that the green is the general city debt on this. Everything that's blue or red are the school debts, and the purple on top is the animal shelter debt that we would add on this year, just to give you, and we'd do that over a 10-year period in installments, but just to kind of show you what that would look like. Just a little bit of a summary. We are in this budget aligned with the strategic plan. We're focused on workforce retention. I'm just really pleased that we could invest in those professional development programs in police and fire, and have competitive salaries in all of our departments. We've invested in some core services. We plan for the future, building capacity for the things that we know we're going to do in the future, and made some strategic capital investments and maintained the current tax rate. So Waterworks Fund, you can just see operation of that new plant will begin We'll go through a period where we've got to learn what it costs to operate that plant. It's just like any new thing that you have, so we'll be doing that. We want to do a water and wastewater master plan in '26, and we'll be doing a rate study. And these are our capital investments in wastewater. We tend to forget these, but these are the ongoing things that we're working on, the biological process upgrade and all these different things. We're doing the same thing in electric, pole replacement, copper conductor replacement. We've got copper wire out there that we've got to take the whole system down to replace it because the standards are that we cannot replace it hot anymore. So we've got to get that stuff out of the system. Continuing to do that in here. Working on the SCADA automated meter reading implementation is in this budget, and a little bit of equipment as well. And of course, we've talked recently, there's about, over the next 13 roughly years, there's about $68.5 million in different substation replacements and things of that nature that we're going to have to be talking about in the near future. All right, and capital investments in streets and paving. You added that additional $500,000 in last year's budget. We'll continue that forward, and we'll be hopefully doing a little more paving this year. And I think I've mentioned this slide before, but vehicle replacement, you see we're replacing about 6 of those Ford Crown Victorias. There's something in me that makes me sad to see that, Chief. The most dependable cars ever put on the road, just about, those Crown Vics. But we've got some replacements of vehicles here. There's probably a little more work that we'll do with this, but it'll all be within the confines of what's budgeted in this proposal.
Yeah, question on the vehicle replacements related to the equipment replacement fund in general. It looks like funding for that, it went up last year, but we're keeping it kind of flat. I have the recollection that we were not generating as much revenue in the equipment replacement fund as we should. Have we been examining the payments that should be going into that fund?
We are in the process of examining all the payments in that fund. We feel like it's adequate for where we are. You'll note, but we're still unwinding some things in there, just to be 100% honest.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm. These are our, kind of as a recap, the proposed budget expenditures by fund, and you can see the differences there. General fund goes up from 63 to 66. Waterworks is up about $1 million to 23, and electric fund's up about $4 million to 63 million in total. So next steps, staff will make any additional changes that have been identified. I will tell you that one of the things that the city manager missed in this process was the tourism monies. So we're going to be increasing Explore Oak Ridge from, I believe it was 535, 500 up to 592. We've had some increase in that. That's one of the areas where we've seen some increase, and we want to continue to invest in that. Tourism is an $83 million industry for us, so we're grateful for that and want to continue to support the great work that Explore Oak Ridge does. So any additional requests from council, we're going to try to get those in by noon. Any changes done by noon on the 4th. We'll make some modifications, and then we'll have a second reading that includes those modifications on the 9th. And with that, I'll take questions.
Questions for the manager? Seeing none?
Well,
Oh, Ms. Smith.
not really a question about this budget, but historically, we've, around this time, we've also done an amendment to the prior year's budget because there's usually things that need to be amended. When are we going to be seeing that?
You will see that at the meeting on the 9th.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Any member of the audience wishing to address council? Yes, sir, please come forward and state your name and address, please.
Brian Drain of Oak Ridge, 15 East Pinnacle Way, neighbor of yours. Got a lot going on, and I don't want to belabor lots of important stuff, and I recognize that. I'm representing pickleball again, sorry. So I saw $195,000 in there. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. When I talked to the gentleman back there a couple weeks ago, it sounded like that was for design only. So, and I know you're not really taking questions and answers and things like that, but I guess just kind of doing the math, it kind of seems to me, well, okay, if we put in the 26 budget, design, so that means we're going to do the design in 26, and unless it gets done by a year from now, we're going to miss the 27 budget, so it'll probably have to go into the 28 budget to actually construct it. So we're looking at 28 or 29, 3 or 4 years from now to get those done. And like I say, you're trying to balance a lot of stuff. I understand that. So my question is there any, well, not question, can't answer the question, but for your consideration, I would say if there's anything that you could kind of do in the interim to improve the facilities would be very much appreciated. I'll say I played in Jackson Square this morning. It was packed. I went to Clinton last week. It was packed. I've been going to Pellissippi University last week. It wasn't packed there, but their setup is not perfect, but it's a whole lot better than Jackson Square, and I think we could do something very similar very easily at Jackson Square, where they've got 2 pickleball courts per tennis court, where we've only got 1. And they're facilitating that by using some outdoor temporary, movable pickleball nets. I don't know what they cost, they're probably a couple grand a piece, I don't know. But if we could invest in a half a dozen of those and maybe restripe the tennis courts there in the interim until we get permanent courts, that would be much appreciated just for your consideration and amongst all the juggling that you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Pestmeyer?
Yeah, so I think he is correct. To make permanent changes and add permanent pickleball courts will take some time. So certainly part of this money is for design, but we're also looking at the mat option that he mentioned. We think if we can work through some with the schools to make sure that we still have enough tennis courts available, that we might be able to do some temporary mats on some of the courts that we already have that are in poor condition, and buy us some time while we get through the design and funding for this. It's not cheap to do tennis courts. I think we looked at replacing all the courts at the high school, and it was well over $1 million. But certainly, we've heard, what the residents have said, and the mats, if they turn out to work how we're hoping they will, we can get some of those in there in the short term, and then be working on long-term solutions at the same time.
All right. Thank you. All right. Seeing no other hands, the motion is to approve on first reading and will be on the board. Looks like it's 6 ayes, no nays, and so budget is approved on first reading. It'll be approved on final, second reading on June the 9th. Okay, having concluded our business, will be comments by citizens. on matters that were not brought up tonight, on part on the budget. So citizens will be permitted to address council about matters that were not on our agenda. Any citizen wishing to do so shall raise your hand, proceed to the lectern, and after recognition, state your name and address and the purpose for your appearance. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes and shall relate to matters of city business that shall not generally result in formal response or action tonight. But I may ask the manager, or I may answer the question myself, or have it responded to by another member of city staff. Statements that are purely political in nature will not be allowed, such as campaign speeches or announcements of candidacy for office, nor will announcements of a civic or social event that's unrelated to city business. Is there anyone wishing to address council? Seeing none, next, announcements and scheduling. Anyone have an announcement or question about scheduling? Any requests for new business items or future briefings? Does the city attorney have any report? Okay. All right, we thank everyone for your presence here tonight, and we are adjourned.